What's up, Gran Turismo fans? What you're about to see is a race from one of my students, and it goes very badly. This is the disaster race that at some point every single one of us has had, and I'm going to show you how the four rules could have prevented or avoided all of it. Here are the four rules in case you haven't seen them before. If you watched Tuesday's video, you know I said that driving standards in lower lobbies are primarily caused by drivers lacking car control, situational awareness, and decision making. This race is going to demonstrate exactly that, and why, until you develop enough as a driver, the four rules should govern everything you do in a race. Guys, I'd like to address something first. I know I can be very direct in what I say. I don't sugarcoat it and I don't dance around sensitive issues. And based on the comments and channel stats, the overwhelmingly vast majority of you appear to recognize that. And I thank you one and all for the incredible support. The channel is growing so fast, it's mind blowing. And I know you cannot please everyone, but to the occasional comment I get, and I do say occasional because the disapproval comments are in single digits on a monthly basis, which say that I am seal clubbing or bullying lower drivers, that I'm smug or pompous. If my delivery style isn't for you, that is honestly fine. No hard feelings. I only want people to sub to me who want to sub to me. That's why I don't ask for subscribers. But please try to see that I offer you real, tangible help and solutions. Every time I highlight a typical mistake of a lower ranked driver, whether it's a bad decision, overreacting, or revenge killing someone, I voluntarily tell you that I've made the same mistakes too. Every single one of them. I've done it all. My sole purpose of this channel is to help you manage your races to get better results and get faster. My delivery style is direct, yes, but please believe me when I say I genuinely care about what I do. It isn't for no reason that my coaching wait time is over 2 months, and it's no coincidence that if you read my comment sections, they are overwhelmingly filled with appreciation for what I do. I want you to have a better experience in GT7 because I know so many of you are frustrated with the driving standards and not being fast enough. But to achieve that, I have to be very explicit and clear about what the root cause issues are first. Because it's only by solving root cause issues that you can have A, better races, and B, get faster. YouTube deals with the root cause issues of your bad races. My coaching deals with the root cause issues of your driving. The race starts to go wrong at the end of lap 1, start of lap 2. I'm just going to let it play through, then we'll discuss it step by step and demonstrate how it was all avoidable. So there we go. Obviously it's the 4-second penalty that ruins his race. Let's wind it back, work through this blow by blow. To begin with, I want to watch this from the point of view of the driver behind Sinister, because this guy hit Sinister twice and then a third time. So you see he hits him once there, again not taking into account that there's a train of cars in front of him and you have to adapt what you do. You can't just take the corner as if you're the only car on the track. I will throw in here at this point, I would be taking the exact same line as Sinister. I would have been going for the inside line given this current situation as well. There's contact there again from the white Alpha. What's happening here? This has happened to you, and you may have even done this to other people. You're eager to make progress. You don't want to lose touch with the cars in front. You want to stay close, but you have to adjust your braking points and your inputs for the situation in front of you, sometimes even for the situation behind you. I will roll off of a brake early if I see that someone's braked late behind me in order to avoid them hitting me. That's a level of experience and understanding and insight that only really comes the more advanced you are as a driver. And even though this is A rank, which is the second highest rank, that skill isn't really here yet for most people. Sinister then makes the exact same mistake himself, so he takes this corner as if there isn't a melee of cars right in front of him. He's coming through this corner with the same muscle memory from time trial, the way he's practiced the track. He doesn't adapt what he does in the moment for the situation ahead of him. And what happens? Sinister now hits the Genesis in front of him. So he's done the same thing to the car in front of him that the White Alpha has done to Sinister. Needless to say, this catches the White Alpha out as well. He then makes the same mistake for the third corner in a row and now hits Sinister. That catapults Sinister again into that same Genesis, which is what pushes that Genesis wide. And then three cars don't go into one. So let's start with how this was preventable and then how the penalty was avoidable. Just to clarify the difference there, preventable is seeing something before it happens and preventing that incident from even occurring. Avoidable is seeing an incident happening and taking a reactionary avoidable action. This contact with the Genesis in front of Sinister is preventable by seeing the melee of cars in front of you and with time and experience adapting your inputs, not getting on the throttle as hard as you would normally because there is a blockage right in front of you. That takes time and experience. And this is why I'm showing you this race from A rank, because if you are D, C, low B, you probably think that A rank are really fast and know what they're doing. Some of them, yes. Some of them are well on their way to becoming strong A plus drivers. Not everyone. It's worth mentioning that fast forward a couple of days after this race, Sinister had learnt from these mistakes and was now putting together consistent top five finishes with much better race management and much less mistakes. That's the important thing, guys. When something happens, however incidental, however small it might be, you've got to try and learn from that mistake and recognize that mistake next time. And the reason that you need a massive amount of race experience, as much race experience as possible, there is that saying that you have to do something wrong 1,000 times before you recognize it in the heat of the moment. So the situation is preventable by having a little bit more experience of driving in close formation, learning to adapt what you're doing with the car for the situation in front of you, learning to adapt your line, your brake points, slow the apex down a little bit more, not be so aggressive on the throttle. All of that just comes with time and experience. But if you want to progress up the ranks, it is a skill you do have to learn. So how was this avoidable? Simply lift. This again comes down to the experience of recognizing that you are in a potentially dangerous situation. You're in a situation that could go wrong. And rather than rolling the dice and just hoping for the best outcome, take avoiding action. React to the situation to avoid what might be about to happen. With time and experience, you get to a point where you begin to realize I am in a potentially dangerous situation here and I need to back off. You see this all the time. If you watch the likes of Digit when he's going from the back in A rank lobbies, and most top split drivers will do this when they're going from the back against slower drivers, how often will they say, I'm backing out? I don't like it, I'm backing out. It just becomes a sixth sense. It's not that you necessarily read precisely what's about to happen. It's not that you've got Jedi reflexes or anything. It's just that you get a sixth sense for this is a dangerous situation. And without exception, as I said in the last video, if someone progresses through the ranks, through A rank, through A plus, and gets up there to my level and Digits level, they all develop this ability. So it is something you need to start trying to develop if you are in lower ranks, even in the second highest rank in the game, in A rank. So if Sinister just lifts here, he prevents this entire situation. He avoids this entire situation from happening. With time and experience, you will begin to know that there is a strong chance the driver on the inside is just going to push you wide by putting the throttle down without any regard for the fact that you're on his left-hand side. With time and experience, you will begin to realize that you potentially might do the same to the driver on your left-hand side. If I don't implicitly trust these drivers, I'm lifting because it's just my sixth sense. It just doesn't feel right. And if all you do is just lift a little bit, you avoid this entire situation. But it feels counterintuitive to lift on the exit, right? You probably lose 1 or 2 positions in doing so, but you survive the group of cars. And that's what rule number 1 about not engaging a group of cars is all about. So we get to the penalty line, and this 4-second penalty drops Sinister from P4 all the way down, eventually right to the back of the pack, and he ends up being P14 out of 15 cars. Lap 4 and Sinister has worked his way back up to P10. I didn't want to make the video too long, but he inherited basically all of these positions. He got up to P10 because of chaos, carnage and incidents in front of him, again even in an A-rank lobby. Once again, let's let it play through and then we'll talk about it blow by blow, what's happened and how it's avoidable and preventable. Let's watch it from the point of view of the other car. All right, let's take it back and break it down. Again, this comes down to situational awareness and decision making, but let's work it through step by step and discuss which rule would again prevent it. The first thing is there is a group of cars in front of Sinister, and rule number 1 says do not engage a group of cars. Now you might say, well, he didn't really engage, he just drove past a driver that had hit the wall. So should the rule still apply? At this moment, you can see exactly what's happening in front of you. You've got full unobstructed view of the incident that's happening in front of you. And whilst you may not have seen exactly what caused it, what you do know without a doubt is that this guy is angry. He is trying to come across and hit the Genesis. So why that's happened, you may have seen it, you may not have seen it in the heat of the moment. You don't need to have seen the original cause. All you need to know is that this guy is angry. Sinister goes to the right because the Alpha gets pushed off to the left. The Alpha comes back over to the right, so Sinister goes over to the left. He's obviously got more straight line speed at the moment. Can he get in front of this car? Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly what happens. He does get in front of the car. But we've all been this guy, and it's important to recognize these moments when they happen. So let's just be clear about what happened to this guy. He's the lead car in a group of 4. He runs a bit deep here, a bit wide. Again, the driver behind does not compensate for that. He doesn't adjust his inputs, adjust his speed, or adjust his line to avoid contact for the fact that the driver in front made a mistake. This is so common in lower ranked lobbies, so it is a very important skill to learn that you have to take preventative action to avoid contact. Yes, the guy in front might have made a mistake. Yes, it might cost you a few tenths of a second to avoid him. Yes, you feel like you're losing time and you shouldn't have to lift off the throttle just because he made a mistake. But you can't just try and drive through him, especially because that tends to create even larger incidents. Because this Genesis didn't adjust what he was doing for the car in front and take preventable, avoidable action, because he didn't do anything to avoid contact, that push hits this Brazilian driver into the wall. Now, again, to be fair, the Brazilian driver could have taken more preventative action himself. He could have lifted even more and not hit the wall. And that's what a top split driver would have done in this situation. But again, the getting out of the throttle is a very hard thing to learn that you actually do need to do. It feels very alien. It feels very counterintuitive to lift off of the throttle when you should be putting the throttle down. But no matter what, it is better to survive. And if lifting off the throttle means you survive, then do it. So the Brazilian driver basically feels like he's being pushed into the wall. And 50-50, that's true. Okay. And he now tries to take it out on the Genesis, tries to block him, but he doesn't have enough forward speed, so the Genesis just drives through him again. Again, we've all been this guy. I've been him. Okay. I've taken revenge actions in this situation. We've all done it. So the important thing to recognize from Sinister's point of view is that that Brazilian alpha is angry. And an angry driver is very likely to make another serious mistake. Once that adrenaline hits, once that red mist hits, you're going to make a serious mistake. Again, it's not your first mistake that ruins your race. It is very often your second mistake that ruins your race. This guy's first mistake was just running a bit wide on a turn. His second mistake was not lifting enough off the throttle to avoid hitting the wall. But he's not completely entirely to blame for the demise of his own race. This guy also had a major role to play in it. So, no doubt what happens here, and think about your own incidents when you've seen these kind of things, when you've been involved in these kind of things. They're both to blame. They're both responsible for the ultimate situation. And yet they're probably both completely blame each other. This is why it's important to look at the replays, and even if you feel that you are the least in the wrong. So, of these two drivers at this moment, this was the more innocent party. Yes, we're not talking about the moment when he tried to take revenge, right? That's obviously wrong. But up until that moment, the bit where he hit the wall, where he got pushed wide and hit the wall, he was the least guilty party. He made a mistake, yes, but this guy's mistake was worse. So therefore, if you're this guy, you feel justified, you feel innocent, you feel a sense of righteous indignation. But that doesn't mean that this guy couldn't have prevented the situation from happening as well. And this really sums up most situations in lower ranks. It's very rarely entirely one person's fault. And if it is, that doesn't mean that you still couldn't have done something to prevent or avoid it. Now, I don't condone this guy trying to take revenge. Okay, again, I've done it. It never works out well. It never makes anything better. It only makes things worse and compound situations. So let's go back to Sinister. What should he do in this situation? It feels like you should go past this car. The Brazilian in the Alpha is very slow in a straight line right now. He's hit the wall. It feels like a free position. It doesn't feel like you're engaging a group of cars in front of you. It feels like you're just driving past a car that's had an incident. And normally I would completely agree, except that if you read the situation correctly, and you didn't need to see all of it. You only needed to see the moment where this guy was trying to take revenge. You didn't need the context. You didn't need the background. You didn't need to know exactly what led up to that. You just needed to know that this guy was trying to take revenge, and you had a front row seat to see that. So there's no excuse for not seeing that. Don't put yourself right in front of an angry driver. You've just put yourself in the kill zone. Whether he wants to kill you or not, you've put yourself in the kill zone because this guy's seeing the red mist, and therefore the probability of something happening in the next corner is just very high. Just don't roll the dice. So again, rule number one would have avoided this situation. Apologies, let me clarify. Rule number one would have prevented the situation. How could Sinister have taken a reactionary avoidance action? If you have decided to go for the move and put yourself in front of the angry driver, I would now take a defensive line. This would more than likely avoid what's about to happen. This is the safe zone again. This is the kill box. The other way it was avoidable in terms of a reactionary action is at this moment here you say to yourself, nah, I don't like it. I don't like it. And this is what you see the likes of Digit do, and it's what you see me do in my Race IQ videos. You just get a sixth sense for the situation and you just think, I don't like the look of it. I'm going to survive the sequence of corners rather than just roll the dice and trust that people will have good decision making, intelligent racecraft, and the car control to be able to do the right thing. Just don't roll the dice. Survive. So again, rule number one, don't engage a group of cars, would have avoided this situation. For what it's worth, I'm pretty sure that's not deliberate, because once the impact happens, the Brazilian slows down deliberately and appears to wait for Sinister. But let's talk about what happens next. Okay, we're going to break this down again. So now we need to go from the point of view of the driver behind the other Brazilian. Remember what I keep saying about adjusting your inputs, changing your braking point, adjusting your line or your apex speed, etc., for the situation in front of you. Look how close these two cars are. Look at where he's braking. This is extremely late, guys. This is very, very late. So he brakes way too late for the fact that there is a car half a meter in front of him, and he hits that car, who then, to be fair, tries to take a void in action and not hit Sinister. You can see him swerving the steering wheel to try and not hit both cars in front of him. So fair play, okay? Fair play. But then what happens is he finds himself sort of accidentally gaining a position, and he thinks, oh, well, I didn't mean to do that. That's not my fault. I was hit. I took preventative action to not hit Sinister, but now he finds himself in front of Sinister. So now he concludes, I'm going to try and keep the position. So then what he does, despite taking a super wide line, he tries to cut back into Sinister's path. The right thing to do here is just to take a slightly wider line. If you're this guy, you've been hit into the corner, you're coming in a bit too fast, you've now got to give space and just go round the outside like this. The crazy thing is, you don't actually need to come across Sinister's path like this, because if you just go side by side and come round the outside like this, you're going to be side by side on the exit. And who gets the position into turn one is going to come down to who has the slipstream. Let's look at it from Sinister's point of view. And I don't think he does anything wrong here. Everyone would do the same thing. You would do the same thing. You've seen a car fly past you on the inside. He's going deep. You cut back to go on the inside, tight to the curb. Everyone would do the same thing here. That said, watch the throttle. Sinister does lift off of the throttle to not kill the guy. So he shows respect. So this was a well-managed situation. But again, all of it was completely avoidable and preventable by the decisions you make here. And you see the point, it just comes down to the law of probabilities, because the psychology here of most lower ranked drivers is I must gain positions, I must go for moves, I must work my way up the field, I must be aggressive, I must take every opportunity, I must put my car in every single gap. But actually, by just being patient, sitting back and watching, you would inherit a ton of positions in this situation because the probability of accidents and incidents in front of you in lower ranks is extremely high. So all you're doing is exploiting that probability. You're looking at the bigger picture. Patience is far better than aggression when it comes to motor racing and sim racing, and especially if we're talking about lower ranks in Gran Turismo 7. And don't forget, this is A rank. It's the second highest rank in the game.